Good evening. You're watching AWANI Tonight with me, Saraya Mia. The government subsidy for flight tickets worth 300 ringgit has been extended to students from polytechnics and community colleges under the Higher Education Ministry, as well as matriculations in teacher education institutes under the Education Ministry. The Transport Ministry said the initiative involving domestic routes between the peninsula, Sabah, Sarawak and Labuan begins today.
In a statement on Friday, the Transport Ministry said the initiative applies to students in the 2022-2023 academic session who have yet to complete their studies after the academic session. Eligible students can apply for the flight ticket subsidy from airlines, Malaysia Airlines, including Maswings, Firefly, AirAsia, Batik Air and My Airline through their websites. On July 12, Transport Minister Anthony Loke announced that the initiative would benefit over 56,000 public university students nationwide, with the overall cost estimated at 16.8 million ringgit. Students can check their eligibility through the website at subsidiudara.mot.gov.my. The deadline to redeem the voucher to purchase flight tickets is December 31st, 2023, but the purchase of flight tickets for travel after the voucher redemption deadline is allowed.
Indonesia has again denied that the hazardous haze was crossing borders. Its Environment Minister Siti Nurbaya Bakar said this after Natural Resources, Environment and Climate Change Minister Nik Nazmi Nik Ahmad urged his Indonesian counterpart to address the haze situation as air quality worsens in Malaysia.
In an interview with Reuters, Siti Nurbaya said she did not know what basis Malaysia used in giving those statements, adding that Indonesia is working not based upon Malaysia's requests. She said the number of forest fires in some parts of Sumatra and Borneo had declined as the government continued to put out the blazes. Indonesia's dry season this year is the most severe since 2019 due to the hot and dry El Niño weather pattern, making it harder to control the fires. Official data revealed that forests sprawling over more than 267,000 hectares have burned this year, exceeding last year's total of 204,000 hectares. Scientists said in 2015 and 2019, such fires burned millions of hectares of land in Indonesia and sent haze billowing across several Southeast Asian countries, generating record-breaking emissions. On Wednesday, Nik Nazmi said he had asked Indonesia in a letter to tackle the haze, saying it should not be the norm, while Indonesia's foreign ministry said it had received Malaysia's letter.
Meanwhile, the government aims to decide on Malaysia's second 5G network provider by the middle of the month. At present, state-owned Digital Nasional Berhad (DNB) is the sole holder of Malaysia's 5G spectrum. Communications and Digital Minister Fahmi Fadil says discussions between the 5G task force and mobile network operators are ongoing.
We have not yet come to a decision as to which MNO will be in which entity. Entity A, which is DNB, or Entity B. I believe we anticipate the signing of the share subscription agreement for take-up of equity on DNB to take place first before further discussions on the second network will be at a more advanced stage. So the first step is that signing.
In May, Fahmi said the rollout of 5G would continue with DNB until it reached 80% of population coverage, after which it would transition to a dual wholesale network model.
Former banker of Goldman Sachs, Roger Ng, who is involved in the 1MDB case, will be returned to the country where he faces related charges. He is facing 10 years in prison after being convicted in New York.
On Thursday, Chief U.S. District Judge Margot Brody in Brooklyn ordered Ng's surrender to the U.S. Marshals Service by Friday so he could be turned over to Malaysian law enforcers. Ng's extradition date had been pushed back from September 6 after U.S. prosecutors said they needed more time to communicate with Kuala Lumpur about first letting him stand trial there. Earlier in March 2023, Ng was sentenced after a jury found him guilty of helping former Goldman boss Tim Lesner embezzle money from 1MDB, laundering the proceeds and bribing government officials to win business. Upon his return to the US, he would have to begin serving his sentence.
MPs' attendance records should be made available on the Parliament website. Dewan Rakyat Speaker Tan Sri Johari Abdul says he's looking into the parliamentary standing orders and legal mechanisms to facilitate the change.
Johari said the public should be made aware of the elected representatives' attendance in Parliament. MPs' allowances could also be cut if they failed to clock in a certain number of hours. Johari said lawmakers have both moral and legal responsibilities towards their voters. He added that he was even considering having MPs lose their position if they were continuously absent for 6 months.
We'll go for a quick break. We'll be right back after this.
Here we are in Qatar then, for the first time ever.
It's set up to be a fascinating race.
It's lights out and away we go. Verstappen from 7th to 2nd.
Hamilton clearly out front. He'll take some beating from there.
This is destroying Bottas's race. Hamilton on top in Qatar. Fernando Alonso back on the podium in Formula One.
With hours remaining until polling for the Pelangai by-election, all eyes will be shifted to the contest there. Can Barisan Nasional retain the state seat, or will it fall to the Pahang opposition? Political analyst Dr. Azmi Hassan shares his expectations of the by-election's outcomes.
Barisan Nasional will retain the Pelangai seat, whether it's comfortable or not, depending on the majority. If the majority is above 4,000, which is above the last time that they got it, then I would say that's a very comfortable win. But if on the other side, I think if they retain the seat, what with the reduced majority, I would not say that that is a comfortable win. During the last 6 state election, majority, I think the Malay voters that supported Barisan Nasional before this supported Pakatan Nasional, no doubt about that. But we have to remember, in Pelangai, there is a 2,000 plus Pakatan Harapan non-Malay voters. So I would say that the Barisan Nasional would really hope that these 2,000 plus Pakatan Harapan supporters, this time around, they will support the UMNO candidate.
Azmi noted that the coming by-election would be an indicator if the green wave has made its way to Pahang.
Similar to the by-election in Johor, it's about the green wave after the general election, whether it has arrived in Pahang. Even though it's only Pelangai, but I guess Pakatan Nasional will use it. If they recapture the seat, they will say that green wave is already there in Pahang, and they should be the state government in this case. So it is very critical. On the other hand, Barisan Nasional can say that if they got a bigger majority, 4,000 plus, compared to last general election, they will say that I would say that Barisan Nasional will say the green wave stop at Bentong, which is I would say, the border between Selangor and also Pahang. So that's a great implication there. Even though Tuan Ibrahim from PAS said if they capture Pelangai, they will, I think, have the chance to out the state government. I think that's only a psychological warfare. It's got nothing to do with the state government. I don't think so that the Barisan Nasional ADON will jump ship.
On the international front, Nargis Mohammadi, a jailed Iranian women's rights advocate, was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. The Nobel Committee says she received the prize for her fight against the oppression of women in Iran, as well as her efforts in promoting human rights and freedom for all.
Mohammadi's win makes her the 19th woman to be awarded the 122-year-old prize. Throughout her efforts in championing human rights, she has been arrested 13 times, convicted 5 times, and sentenced to a total of 31 years in prison. She is currently serving her sentence in Tehran's Evin prison for spreading propaganda, among other charges. The Nobel Committee's decision to award the Peace Prize to Mohammadi follows over a year of protests in Iran, spearheaded by women. They were sparked in September 2022 after 22-year-old Mahsa Amini died in custody of morality police.
The Philippines has placed 42 airports on heightened alert following bomb threats. Its civil aviation authority said immediate enhanced security measures were being implemented across all commercial airports in the country while the threat was being validated.
According to the Civil Aviation Authority, the warning had been sent by email to air traffic services about a threat to flights out of the capital Manila headed to Davao, Bicol, and the popular tourist regions of Palawan and Cebu. It did not say when the warning was received. The Civil Aviation Authority added that it was working closely with the police and the military to increase intelligence and monitoring operations. Meanwhile, the Manila International Airport Authority said mobile patrols were in place and K9 units were doing the rounds at all terminals of the Ninoy Aquino International Airport. Philippines Transport Minister said the security measures will not impact any scheduled departures.
Meanwhile, 52 people have died after a missile slammed into a village in northeastern Ukraine in what was one of the deadliest attacks against civilians since the war began. Ukraine's defense ministry blamed Russia for the attack and said there were no military targets in the area. Russia did not directly comment on the strike, but its state news agency reported that the Russian military carried out 20 air and artillery strikes on Ukrainian targets in the village of Froza. It, however, did not specify when the strikes were carried out. Kharkiv mayor, meanwhile, said Russia went on to launch missile strikes on the city of Kharkiv in the early hours of Friday. He added that a 10-year-old boy was killed when a residential building was hit and more than 20 others were injured. The mayor added that Russia likely used Iskander ballistic missiles in the latest attack. A drone attack on a Syrian military academy in the western city of Homs has killed at least 100 people. The army blamed terrorist groups backed by known international forces as the explosive-laden drones targeted a graduation ceremony attended by cadets' families.
Syria's General Command of the Armed Forces said in a statement that several drones carrying explosives targeted the Homs Military Academy shortly after the afternoon graduation ceremony had ended. Among the victims were 6 women and 6 children, and more than 200 people were also wounded in the attack. So far, no one has claimed responsibility for the attack. It was believed to have been launched from opposition-held areas northwest of Homs. The rebels have been fighting government forces in a 12-year civil war. The army said it considered the attack an unprecedented criminal act and would respond with full force.
The death toll from a glacial lake burst in India earlier this week has climbed to at least 40, while an estimated 75 more remain missing. Deemed one of the worst disasters in the region in over 50 years, authorities say it has impacted some 22,000 lives.
The Lonak Lake in the northeastern state of Sikkim had burst through a major hydroelectric dam on Wednesday, triggering flash floods. Around 2,400 people have been evacuated so far, and 7,600 people were in relief camps. Private and government institutions were closed in the area until October 15th. The latest disaster comes ahead of a popular festive and tourism season in the scenic area.
That report wraps up AWANI Tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Saraya Mia and we'll see you soon.